what does the universe want to do through you that's beyond you? But it also means that they're probably not contributing as much as they could to the organization. And that's bullshit.
Welcome to the Culturedge Podcast. Are you an entrepreneur or a change maker who's frustrated with the pace of change inside your organisation? Well, this show will, I hope, offer you valuable practical advice as you navigate your career. And our guests will also help you answer the question, am I better matched to the corporate world or to the startup world? My name is Stephen Parkins, and I'm determined to help people like you and your business build a strong, healthy culture of innovation. Today, along with my co-host and good friend David Semmens, we're delighted to welcome our guest, Nick Himowicz. Nick is an innovation coach and a YouTube creator. With Strategyzer and Alex Osterwalder, he's worked with lots of companies to create business models that work and value propositions that people care about. So let's get started. Well, hi there, Nick. Welcome to the Culturedge Podcast. Thanks for joining us on the show.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure, Stephen and David. I'm really, really pleased to be speaking with both of you.
So we're really delighted that you're taking the time here. And I know that there's a topic that's been on your mind for some time. And it's one that I hear talked about every now and again. And it's this topic of bullshit jobs. So what can you tell us about bullshit jobs? What are they? And what do you mean by that?
There's something that a phenomenon I've experienced a lot in organizations, and I've seen it a lot before, where you'll jump on a Zoom call and you'll say to a colleague, perhaps before the call has started, and or while you're still waiting for people to join the call, hey, how are you? And the response is always a big sigh of breath. And it's always like, so busy, so crazy busy. Like, well, don't even ask. And these are the same people that actually before the call might not have been doing anything. They might not have even been working that hard. They were working from home. They were actually just doing the washing, filled the washer with clothes, and they're not that busy. But it's almost like you have to say that, and that I have found is a technique for. I don't know what. There are probably many reasons why people do it, but it's a great technique to get more work put on your plate. And it's also a great kind of like badge of honor that you're working really hard. So for me, bullshit jobs are ones where someone is kind of trying to make out that they're doing more than they are, and they're using it as a defense mechanism. But it also means that they're probably not contributing as much as they could to the organization. And that's bullshit. So that's a perspective or something that I've seen recently and over the years that I think is a real problem that we've got in corporates, because I believe corporates can change the world because they've got the power, they've got the money, and if they're doing their work effectively, we can have a really positive impact on society through them, both on generating revenue right now, which can be used to if they're taxed effectively, that's a different topic. They can help society straight away, but also they have great resources for innovation to create opportunities and solutions for the future. But if we're not working effectively and people are going, yeah, so busy, that's a major problem for society. So that's something I've been thinking about a lot recently.
You certainly make me laugh with the term, and well, obviously, we see ourselves as professional innovators, and we want to push for meaningful innovation. I mean, there's no way you can innovate, right, with that sort of attitude and people who are either performing a bullshit job. Do people realize that they're doing a bullshit job, or how do you see it?
I don't think that people. I could be wrong. I'm hoping that they don't think they are, but they are doing it without really knowing it. I'm not sure.
And do you think it's more prevalent? Do you think it can be more prevalent in some types of organizations rather than others? Because I think in a much smaller company, at least in my experience, there's nowhere to hide. But that's just my experience and the people I know. So that's obviously a limited sample. Are you seeing something different?
Definitely in corporates, it's a lot easier. I've seen it happen way more in large organizations. Yeah, you're right. And it's less frequent in smaller organizations and startups because there are less places to hide. I have still seen it in startups because you can be more like people that are political and they know how to play the game, and play to what the leaders of the organization want, are in a better position to be able to control them, and control outcomes and get more power. So it can also happen in smaller organizations, but it's tougher because if the organization has quite a few people working like that, they're not going to survive for long.
Yeah, so you can't have 20% of the staff lagging when or if you've got 2%, that's two people lagging.
And without asking you to name and shame, Nick, are there some concrete examples you can share of either in the big bad corporate world or in a startup where you've seen this thing happen?
I've seen it happen. I've got a family member. I don't want to be specific, okay, but I've got a family member, and this was where I noticed that something was up, because this family member, I knew for a fact that they had not been working all day. They had been in the cafes, going for walks, doing different things all day, and they only had one call that day, and it was in the evening. And I heard that family member say, been so busy, like it's just been crazy. I was like, I've seen all day that is not the case. And it was only then that I realized, when I saw the family member doing it in the corporation that they were working for, that it was a thing, because I'd seen it happen, I'd experienced it, but been on the other side of it in organizations. Go, wow, these people must be really busy, because they're going. But then that's when I realized, hold on, I've heard that deep sigh before, and that explaining that they're busy before, but that this person isn't really busy, and they've completely they haven't opened their laptop all day. They've been out walking. And I think I've see it more often now, the same thing in other people as well.
So is it really a bullshit job, or is it a bullshitter? Is it about the job, or is it about the person?
I don't know. I don't want to make a value judgment on the person, but I think you're right. It is different from the fame, like what's become famous from the book, I think, Bullshit Jobs, right? Which is that it is in the person in that role. I don't want to assign it to the identity of the person, but to the behavior of that person. Yeah, and it's a behavior. It's a bullshit behavior.
Yeah, so they slip into that behavior because of the way the job might be set up, or what's expected of them.
And it might be their outside, their personal lives as well. So there's lots of different factors that could be involved in this for why they're doing it. And as we were talking about before, they might not even be aware that they're doing it.
And so this family member of yours, this anonymous family member, was he or she working in a big corporation, or was this in a smaller setup?
It was in a massive corporation.
Yeah.
And that sounds like an easy in for innovation, just to come in and go, right, well, we should stop those non-productive jobs. And obviously you're going to have the corporate resistance to that. The culture is going to be resistant to that. So how do you change that? And obviously it's going to be easier to change that for a small company than it is for a big company, which it's sort of me throwing the two innovation people sort of a hand grenade here, saying how would you fix that? It just strikes me as a very difficult problem. It's institutional change.
I think you've got to it goes back to what Jim Collins said. First of all, you've got to get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. And that's good for the people that you're getting off the bus, because they probably need to find something that's going to light up, like put fire in their belly and make them want to get up every day. Because if Steve Jobs said that if I've been waking up, I ask myself every day, if today was my last day and this was the last thing I did on my last day, something along those lines, would I want to do what I'm going to do today? And if the answer was no, too many days in a row, he said he probably needed to make a change. And so I think that people that are doing these types of things, where they're going, I'm so busy, so much going, I think they probably are not that happy in what they're doing, and they're not living their true purpose. There's a question that I learned, coaching question I learned from Robert Dilts, who's a prominent in the neurolinguistic programming community, and is also a very successful coach. And he said, what is it that you could use the word God, or you can use the word the universe? What does the universe want to do through you that's beyond you? And I think people that are engaging in the behavior of have not satisfactorily answered that question of what does the universe want to do through you that's beyond you. And if we have people that really feel like they're doing something bigger than themselves, that they're contributing to, that's really important for society and for the world. That's going to create a great place for everyone to live in and to work in, right? That starts with getting the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, supporting the people that we're getting off the bus so that they've got what they need to find something, get on the right bus somewhere else. And once we've got the right people on the bus, then we can decide where they need to sit.
I like that metaphor of the people on the bus. And do you find that in the startup world that's much easier to do because by virtue of the fact that it's a smaller organization? What's been your experience working with founders and other entrepreneurs?
My experience working with founders is that they're all fallible human beings. There's no like perfect founder. And so what you've got to do, and there's different personality types. So it's really important that you have the right people around the founder that make up for their limitations. Everybody has weaknesses. You want to try and make sure, and I like to use the 6 thinking hats and the different types of thinking as like categories. There are certain hats that we like to wear more than others. We can all wear all of them, but we should wear we get used to wearing our own hats. Like, for example, being creative and coming up with ideas versus being kind of methodical and organized. If you are more the creative founder, it helps that you try to have methodical, organized people being your kind of managers underneath you. If you're the founder, that is, right? In startups, if you've got those people doing that kind of behavior of so busy, but they know how to work with the founder, they might not be the right person. And that can create a lot of problems for the rest of the organization. And I've seen that a lot in different organizations where the founder doesn't hire the right immediate like kind of leadership team underneath them that helps them manage the organization, even if it's 5 or 10 people. If there's often like a connecting person that works between the founder, CEO, and then the rest of the organization. If that person's not right, you're going to have real problems. If that person's or those people, you've got a real challenge, and that means that eventually the startup's probably not going to be successful and probably going to run out of money. So it often does sort itself out, or it can just mean that the startup kind of survives but doesn't quite scale, and that's another problem because maybe that startup's really important for the world, and we need to make sure that it is successful. So that's why it's important that we kind of address this issue.
You're listening to the Culturedge Podcast. If you care about innovation and you want practical lessons for your career, you're in a great place with our entrepreneurially minded guests. Subscribe and be the first to know each time we release a new episode. So there's definitely missed potential in both cases, both in the corporate world and in the startup world. If you had to kind of zoom out and try and summarize what the big challenge is as you see it with Bullsh1t jobs, is it a challenge of governance, of leadership, or is it a challenge of human aspiration and determination? How do you bring this together as a single challenge?
I don't know what the connecting piece is here, but I feel that a major challenge and the challenge for all organizations is sales, because business success is downstream from sales. I heard Daniel Priestley say that. All business success is downstream from sales. If you can sell something, you can have a successful business. Of course, then there's the delivery side of things. There's lots of other things that need to be involved. And I heard Grant Cardone say sales solves all problems. Not completely true. It's missing out a lot of things. But if you're a startup and you don't have any sales, sales is going to solve our problems. Or if you're in a big organization, you're going through an economic crisis, getting a lot of sales in, that's going to help things a lot, right? So it's really important that we overcome the challenge of sales. And I think this goes back to the Bullsh1t jobs idea. You need to get everyone rallying around the kind of goals of the organization and hitting the targets. And if you've got people that aren't fully behind it, I think that's going to really make it difficult for the organization to be successful and make it through, especially through the difficult economic situation that we're in and that we seem to be going through that we will continue going through now for a while more, I think. If we can solve the problem of sales, that's going to really, really help us.
Goes back a bit to what you were saying before about nowhere to hide, right? If sales are falling, you can't be pretending that everything's swimming.
Definitely.
So what do you think then is the solution to this? So sales obviously is a big term in itself. Is it that the people with the bullshit jobs need to become better sellers, or is it the people who manage them need to force them more into a customer facing environment? Do they need to be more in the line of fire? How do you think sales and exposure to sales could potentially solve this?
Well, I think sales is misunderstood, first of all. It's interesting because I did a master's in management, and you can do a master's in accounting. You can do a master's, or you can study at university many law, for example, many different topics. I don't see many people saying, I want to do a bachelor's degree in sales. Or, it's not really a thing that we talk about enough, or that's really well understood. It's more kind of like, I fell into sales, is what people say more, right? I was lucky enough to fall into sales actually quite early. I was selling fruit and veg on a stall in a veg, in a market. So that really helped me get started. And then later on, I was selling websites and SEO door to door. And really, what that taught me was that it's a numbers game, and that you need to be able to knock on enough doors to speak to enough people, to then be able to speak to enough decision makers and pitch those decision makers to then hopefully get enough sales at the end of the day. And what you need to be doing is recording how many people you're speaking to. Otherwise, you can knock on 5 doors. And if you don't get a sale after knocking on 5 doors, you can go, been knocking on doors for hours and this isn't working. But in reality, that's only 5 doors. But probably you need 30 doors to knock on to be able to speak to, get through 20 receptionists, to have only 10 decision makers be there, to be able to pitch 6 of them, because they'll only 6 of them allowed you to pitch them because they had time. And then of those, only 3 were maybe interested or suitable, and only 1 actually had the interest and the time and the money to buy that product that you were selling on the day. So from the 30 doors, you had 1, but because you were able to record each phase and understand the funnel, that's how you were able to sell and keep going. And once you've got those numbers, you know what that kind of funnel looks like. Every day, you know the numbers that you need to hit. And you can also analyze and say, what phase am I not doing well with? I need to focus on knocking on more doors. I need to focus on pitching better. I need to focus on being able to get through receptionists to be able to get to decision makers. This is really important. I think organizations need to work out what their funnels are and what their channels are to customers. And they need to get everybody involved in their own way as part of this, especially during tough economic times. Having other people in the organization that can be involved more in this, I think, is going to help them partly with their challenges and survive, so that they can become even stronger as we get through and go beyond these tough economic times.
I think it's really really interesting what you said there about sales, and also sales gets a bad rep, because actually I think the best people, so I'm investment manager, the best people who come to me, or at least in a day job, they're bringing a solution. So I'll have some people who'll be, I've got this fund, you should look at it. And I'll tell them that, well, this is actually what I want. This is the need. What you're offering me is completely the opposite of that almost sometimes. I don't mind having a solution pitched to me. It's when someone's trying to sell me something I've actually told them I don't want, and you're trying to escape. And obviously nowadays it's easier to escape because you're on Zoom and you can just leave. And I think that's the real problem. I think that's where sales suffers, when people realize it, and that actually, and also if someone brings me something that I want, I might even chase them for it. It makes their job easier, and the salespeople don't mind getting chased for contracts and the like. I think it's kind of looking at it from the other end. And then I think on the funnel, I think you're absolutely right. It's tracking that and seeing where the pinch points are. But again, it's the knocking on the doors, and actually it depends on what business you're in. Some businesses you need to knock on 1,000 doors to get 50 people to open them, to get 5 people to talk to you, to get 1 discussion, which is crippling for morale. But also, if you understand that's the slope you're skiing down, that's what you have to go with.
I love this. And it reminds me of there was one piece of advice that Alex Osterwalder shared with corporate innovators and giving advice on how to have a successful career as a corporate innovator. And one thing he said was, think about the value proposition canvas and think about the customer profile. And you yourself as a corporate innovator are the value map. You're a value proposition yourself. So put yourself in the shoes of the stakeholders around you in the organization. Think, what are the problems that they have? What are the outcomes they're trying to achieve? And think how you can be the product or service to them to solve their problems in the organization. And that's not just great for advice for corporate innovators, but also for salespeople. Think about the problems that your customers are trying to solve. And if you're hearing completely different things, it's not going to be helpful to start pitching your idea. What you want to do is you want to understand people's challenges. And if it's not the right person, actually help them, maybe point them in the right direction for where they could go if you can. You don't need to pitch anything to them. So yeah, I think that's really important. I think this comes back to the whole bullshit jobs idea or bullshit behaviors, because if those people can be finding ways to provide value and everyone in the organization is pushing to create value, that's going to have a big impact on society.
So thinking practically then, if you're a founder listening to the show today and you suspect that within your small startup there are, well, bullshit jobs or bullshit behaviors, as we said before, what's the first step that founder can do to get more of their people engaged in sales and doing the things you recommended, like recording things? So practically, what actions, what tools can they make use of?
Well, one thing I did think about was if you're trying to leave the corporate world and kind of start your own thing, I think it's really important for you to have a runway. So I wouldn't recommend trying to jump from corporate to startup or doing your own thing without having enough money in the bank, because it's probably going to, like, you probably think 3 months runway is enough. It's probably not enough. Like, I think it's miles away not enough. Even 6 months is very tight. I think you really want 1 year runway before you quit your job. That would be my advice, because if you're a corporate innovator and you're trying to create a new startup, we say you should only invest a small amount of time, money, and resources in an idea before you invest any more. And you kill the idea if you don't get that evidence. It's the same with you trying to start a new thing for yourself. First of all, try and do it on the side, build it up on the weekends and in the evenings. And if you can't actually build it up, don't quit your job yet. Persevere with your existing job. Try to save up as much money as you can. And only if once you start getting evidence that it could create a revenue stream for you, that you should invest in that. The other element is that, focus on sales, get better at that, because that's the key skill that you're going to need. A lot of founders say, oh, maybe we can outsource it to somebody else. No, you need to be doing that yourself, because the sales conversations you have are going to impact your product. It's going to change it. If you try and outsource that to someone else, you don't get that information, and the speed at which you can change the product or service based off of customer feedback and feedback from conversations that you've had is going to take much longer. So make sure that you get better at sales. And in the future, if you keep hearing the same problems, try and focus on just solving the same problem again and again and again, and say no to customers that maybe have slightly different problems, but require you to create a completely different product or service to meet their need. Because otherwise you get into that cycle of, oh yeah, but this customer wants it, I'm sure we'll sell loads more of these later. And then you never do. You make it for that one customer once, and then you can never reuse it. So try to say no to certain customers, direct them to maybe other places where they can get that problem solved. And you try and set up more conversations so you can find more of the same types of customers with the same types of problems. And that's how you can create a scalable business moving forward. So have a runway, focus on sales, and hopefully once you've built it up, try and keep solving the same types of problems, and don't be afraid to say no or not work with certain clients if they're trying to get you to solve completely different problems.
I think that something that's also quite interesting, Nick, is actually, and you wouldn't know, so obviously this is a podcast, you could be listening from this anywhere in the world, but you're actually based in Moldova. You moved earlier this year from the UK. Firstly, did clients notice? How has it changed what you're you're doing? Obviously, slight time difference, but beyond that, has it had an impact? And I guess, is there anything that's changed as a result of that move?
I think it's been really interesting because my existing clients haven't noticed much difference because they thought I was just in another part of London and that we weren't meeting anyway because of COVID. So there was no difference. And I've invested heavily in creating the best possible virtual meeting kind of environment, good camera quality, good microphone quality, trying to really get into the tools like Miro, etc. So if anything, I think it's made it better because I knew that I needed to double down on that even more and make sure that experience is as good as possible. So it hasn't been a problem whatsoever. But if anything, it's been really interesting because I knew nothing about Moldova before. My wife is originally from Moldova. That's why we moved here. We've had a baby here. It's been really interesting to get to know the startup environment here. And I was just by chance on like channel 60 or something on Moldovan TV. I saw a startup conference here, a recording of it. And it was, the production was amazing. I was so impressed. I saw there was, I immediately while watching it, it was 7 hours long, didn't watch the whole thing, but started reaching out on LinkedIn to people that were speaking there. And like I've immediately already created a fantastic network here and already started working with one main client here, the Top Accelerator. So it's just created massive opportunities moving out here, and it's just opened up my mind a lot. And there's lots of different clients that I would never have worked with otherwise. So it's really interesting, and I think it's something that people don't think about. The world outside, certainly the UK, you think, oh, the UK is where it's at. But actually, there are lots of opportunities even in places that you would never have thought there are.
And the great thing, of course, being completely remote is that you can address opportunities anywhere, right? And you first came to my attention on a Strategyzer video that I saw. And then I think through your LinkedIn, I linked through to your YouTube channel. And I have to say, you got some really entertaining videos on there. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel and what people can expect if they come and pay you a visit?
Yes, definitely. So something that, because I've worked with Alex Osterwalder for the past like 3 years, I stopped working with him in his team in June, but something that he really imprinted on me was this idea of simple, visual and practical content. And I think the reason why he wanted me to work with him in the first place is because I've been making videos probably about 5-6 years now. And I really try to make them simple, visual and practical, but also fun. And I like to try to make you smile because there's already videos out there. There are already videos out there with great information in. But what I'm trying to do is share the information in a way that makes it fun and interesting. And I think there are far fewer videos that do that. So I'm all about taking content that has made me go, wow, that's cool, that's interesting, and then trying to present it in a way that I think other people will really like it as well. And that's what I do on my YouTube channel, sharing a lot of business content that's great for corporate innovators, but also startups to help them grow their businesses.
Right. Well, we're going to wrap up now, Nick. So tell us how listeners can find your YouTube channel and how they can connect with you if they want to.
Brilliant. If you go to youtube.com/Nick Himo, you'll be able to find my back catalogue of videos there. And also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a lot of content there as well. So I'd love to connect with you there.
Super. Well, we'll be sure to add those links in the description of the podcast as well. Thanks a lot, Nick. It's been really good fun. Thanks for all the great advice. And thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Culturedge Podcast. As you heard just now, our guests are a highly diverse group of entrepreneurs and innovators, each with fantastic experience in both the corporate world and the startup world. So subscribe to the Culturedge Podcast today and join us again for more practical advice for your career and your impact in innovation.